Kindred Spirit. I was making a fire recently and using a new tool for me, a wedge. The kind you use to split wood for kindling. A small crack becomes a divide when enough force is applied. It's still the same wood, but now it's in two pieces, heading down different paths to the same place. That image has lingered, leading my soul to reflect once again on the wedge that came between my beloved and me during the final years of his life. In 2014, after his second cancer diagnosis, the treatment offered was cutting-edge immunotherapy, dangerous, experimental, and brutal. Before deciding whether to go through it or not, he asked me if he should do it. The world seemed to pause. What do you say to the person who knows you better than anyone, whose love has been your anchor, when they ask for your truth, knowing your answer might create a divide between you? I'd already witnessed the deaths of a few close loved ones, including my father's, which shaped my ideas about how I wanted to live and die. I'd seen people fight death, grasping at treatments that stretched out their suffering, and others who found grace in surrendering to the inevitable. I knew which path I was practicing for myself. So when he asked, I shared my truth. After prefacing my words with a disclaimer, acknowledging that I was speaking from theory while he was the one between a rock and a hard place, I admitted that I wouldn't choose the treatment. I promised to support him in whatever choice he made. I was being loving and honest. I saw how it hurt him. A small crack appeared, and over time, it deepened. After that, he began to protect himself. What human wants their most trusted advisor close by if they can't wholeheartedly join team, beat the odds? Decisions and details, especially medical ones, became his burden, hashed out with trusted friends and family. And me? I was in the mix, of course. I knew everything that was going on, but he never again asked me if he should proceed or not with the next level of treatment. Part of it also came from his desire to honor my experience. It also left me feeling like an outsider in our life together. I was on a need-to-know protocol, and if you'd like to learn more about that saying, I'll link the video where I talk about it more in the description. Guilt, shame, not enough. I realized I was on my own in a way I've never experienced before, nor ever heard anyone speak about. I grieved not just his impending death, but the loss of parts of our relationship before he was even gone. One night, the summer before his death in September, under a sky full of stars in our backyard secret garden, he tried to express how much he missed our connection. He was drunk, though. His words jumbled. It had never been his MO before. But in the 2 years since his second diagnosis, I saw him in this condition more than I ever had in our entire life together. I wanted to dive in, to hold on to that fleeting openness, but I couldn't. By morning, the opening had closed. One of the most profound gifts he gave me came from a letter he wrote after his first cancer diagnosis. He told me about it, showing me the icon on his early 2000s computer desktop. The file read, "Open when I'm dead." I honor requests, so it was easy to let that knowledge recede into the background. But soon after his death, the most important thing in my world was to retrieve those letters for our children. By 2016, Computer technology had already become exponentially antiquated. And still, I never gave up on trying to retrieve those letters. Good news. We, my children and I, have these letters now. In mine, written almost a decade earlier, he thanked me for inspiring him to be a better man. It's humbling to realize I've inspired someone, not through effort, but just by being myself. He never told me that in words before. Instead, he showed it in countless small and large ways throughout our entire relationship. He simply loved me for being me. Even after his death, that love lingered. The florist down the street, who'd seen him buy me flowers regularly, continued the tradition for years. Here's the twist. My beloved didn't set that up. The florist felt guided to take on the tradition until I closed my shop in mid-2019. Small reminders like this made me feel his presence in ways that continue to awe. I even went to a medium, something I'd never done before, but felt a strong inner urge to try. Through her, I heard his voice again. In one session, he reassured me that the guilt I carried didn't mean a hill of beans where he is. In another session 3 years later, that same medium described him reclined in a chair, something I'd practically forbidden in our home. Of course, he had a guitar in his lap. He was also glowing with love. He joked that he was much more helpful to me now than he'd ever been in our physical life together. I laughed out loud at that because it really is so him. Why am I sharing this? Most people, especially in the US, fight death tooth and nail. There's a place for that, and there's also this story for those of us who want to have a different relationship with death. After my beloved's passing, I asked my children to let me talk openly about death, not because I want to die, but because I knew I would. It's a thing. None of us are going to escape it. I want to make peace with it, to live as fully as possible, and to lean into the mystery rather than fear it. Fortunately for me, my children agreed. You know how much I enjoy dancing, right? Well, as I speak to you today, we've been dancing as a trio since 2016, as joyfully as possible while occasionally stepping on each other's toes, trusting that's how learning to dance together grows. Standing here now, I see the wedge differently. It wasn't the end of us. It was part of the messiness of love, part of what makes it so painful and so worthwhile. Here are my takeaways 9 years out. Truth and love can coexist. Telling the truth about life and death can feel like a betrayal, but it's an act of love. Even when it creates distance, it honors both the other person's autonomy and our own values. Sometimes we grieve relationships before they end. It's okay to mourn the cracks and wedges. Support looks different for everyone. Loving someone through a crisis might mean stepping back when we want to step forward. It's about honoring their path, even when it hurts. Connection transcends death. The bonds we share don't end when someone dies. They transform. deepening in ways that still surprise me. Being is enough. We don't have to do anything to inspire love or growth in someone else. Simply being is enough. This story is complete for now. If it resonates with you, Kindred Spirit, let's keep this conversation going in the comments below. Thank you for investing time with me today. If you found this story meaningful and would like more, like, subscribe, and maybe share it with someone who might connect with these words.